Alright, so you're back for another rap lesson today, and today's lesson is going to be on scientific notation. We've just done scientific notation in class a few weeks ago, so hopefully it's pretty fresh in your memory. I want you to remember with scientific notation, we're just changing the way the number is written. So we're not actually looking at performing any operations or figuring out what x is. We're just taking a number and rewriting it to make it a little bit smaller and a little bit easier to work with. Just like with all the other rap lessons you've done so far, I'm going to go through the first one with you, have you try the second one on your own. I will go over problem 2 then, and then give you time to complete the other 8 problems, and then I'll come back and go over those answers. If you ever have any difficulty on any these concepts and you're not able to figure them out in rap, please come over and see me. So problem 1. Problem 1, we're looking at writing the number in scientific notation. Biggest 2 things I want you to remember is, first of all, that we're counting decimal places. We are not counting zeros. It's important to know where your decimal point is, where you want that decimal point to end up. And that's what we're going to be counting, those decimal places that we're moving. Also remember that you only ever want one non-zero number in front of the decimal point. One number that is not a zero should be in the front of the decimal point when you're finished. So in problem 1, right now our decimal point is behind this last 0. I want to move it up here between the 1 and the 0, because the 1 would allow me to have one number in front of the decimal point. It is always times 10. It's times 10 because every time we move a place value, we're actually multiplying by 10. So now I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I moved 9 spots. So that becomes my exponent. In front of the multiplication sign goes all of the numbers until you hit the long row of zeros. So the long row of zeros isn't until after that 6, so I have to make sure I include the 6 in front of the multiplication sign. And then that's your final answer. I'd like you to try problem 2 now. With problem 2, please take note to which direction you are moving that decimal point, and think about how your exponent may change based on the movement of that decimal point. So now that you've had some time to complete problem 2, we're going to go ahead and go over it. I want to move my decimal point from between these first 2 zeros where you can see it back behind the 4. So I'm going to go ahead and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I went 5 places, and at least to me it seemed like I was moving in a backwards direction, or I was moving to the right, thereby my exponent would be negative. The 4.5 comes in front, and that's all there is to it. So now you're going to go ahead and complete the other 8 problems. You have 2 multiplication, 2 division, 2 word problems, and 2 where you have to go from scientific notation back into standard form. So now we're going to look at 2 problems where you have to go from scientific notation into standard form. And I know mine are a little blurry, so I'm going to go ahead and actually rewrite it for us. So this is 3.03 times 10 to the 4th, I believe. Yes. So I'm going to take my number and I'm going to rewrite it down here, the 3.03 in front of the multiplication sign. The 4 tells me I'm moving 4 decimal places, and because it's positive, I'm going to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Any open spots we fill in with zeros. Please take the extra second or 2 then and rewrite the number neatly, putting the commas in where they belong. So we get 30,300. Looking at problem 4, same sort of thing. 2.23. This one was times 10 to the negative 6, but we're going to be going the other direction because it's negative. So 2.23, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All the open spots get zeros. And then take a minute, not even a minute, and rewrite it nice and neatly so you don't have the little loops. 2, 2, 3. 5 and 6 are our multiplication problems. We're going to multiply the numbers and we're going to go ahead and add the exponents. So 4.4 times 1.5 gives me 6.6. So now we're going to add the exponents. So the exponents are 3 and a negative 7. 3 plus negative 7 is going to give us times 10 to the negative 4th. Number 6 I will do over here so I have a little more room. I'm going to multiply the two numbers together. That gives me 42.34 times 10, and I'm going to add my exponents. This is negative 5 minus 2, that's negative 3. In this case, I'm not finished yet. If you'll notice, I have two numbers in front of that decimal point, and I only want one. So I need to move the decimal point forward one spot between the 4 and the 2. So 4.234 times 10 times 10. And because I move forward one spot, I need to add 1 to that negative 3. Negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2 for my final answer. 7, the division, same sort of process, but we're going to be dividing now instead of multiplying, and we're going to be subtracting our exponents. So 5.4 divided by 1.8 gives me 3, and then it's going to be times 10, and it's negative 5 minus a negative 3. I'm going to go ahead and write that out for you. You need to make sure you change subtraction to plus the opposite, so that would be plus positive 3, giving me 3 times 10 to the negative 2nd. Most commonplace people make mistakes is with subtracting a negative. And if you're still having difficulty subtracting a negative, I highly recommend you use a calculator. We're looking at scientific notation. We're not looking at can you subtract with a negative. So use the calculator if you need to at that point. Number 8, we have 4.1 divided by 8.2. That's going to give us 0.5. 0.5 times 10. And your exponents were 4 and 8. So 4 minus 8 is negative 4. This time I need to move my exponent back 1, giving me 5. And now I need to subtract 1 to my exponent. So plus negative 1. It's going to give me negative 5 here. 5 times 10 to the negative 5th. The last two problems are word problems. And actually I got half of it on one slide and half of it on another. But we'll start. A box contains 5 times 10 to the 3rd paper clips. And it says that the mass of each paper clip in the box is 8 times 10 to the 4th. What is the combined mass? The word combined means to put together. So we're going to be multiplying these two numbers. So 5 times 10 to the 3rd. Having issues with my parentheses today. Times 8 times 10 to the negative 4th. Multiply my numbers. 5 and 8 give me 40. Add my exponents. 3 and negative 4 is negative 1. I need to move my decimal place forward 1, so 4.0. Because it moved forward 1, I need to add 1 to my exponent. Negative 1 plus 1 is 10 to the 0 power, and you need to leave it as 10 to the 0 power. It's not just 10. You do need a label. In this case, our label would be kilograms. Number 10. Website announced that over 4 times 10 to the 9th songs were downloaded by 5 times 10 to the 7th users. What is the average number of downloads per user? So average here is telling us that we need to be dividing, and we're looking at downloads divided by users. So my downloads were 4 times 10 to the 9th. 4 times 10 to the 9th. And my users were 5 times 10 to the 7th. 4 divided by 5 gives me 0.8. 9 minus 7 is 10 to the 2nd. I need to move my decimal place back 1, giving me 8. So that means I'm going to need to subtract 1 from the 2. So 8 times 10 to the 1st. And it's 8 times 10 to the 1st downloads per user. And that's the end of our lesson on scientific notation. Again, if you have any questions on any of this, please make sure you come over and see me. And with your next rep, we'll do another lesson.